She's just a girl and she's on fire, hotter than a fantasy, lonely like a highway. She's living in a world and it's so
And what it is kids are they're gonna support what they like, and they're gonna find it however they want it, and they're gonna tell the next person, and it's just a word of mouth thing. So that's where the social network part comes, social media, plays a big part. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter.
Cover Drive, we work really, really hard at, identifying with our fans and communicating with them every day on Twitter, every day on Facebook, on YouTube. And it's an extremely important thing because you'll find that the days when, for instance, your record won't get playlisted on the radio, or you might not be, playlisted on the music channels, the fans are going to help that record to sell because they've bought into you as a person, you as a brand, and your music. And that's an extremely important thing to know, that if you don't have that, then your fans have nothing to hold on to. But if you can give your fans that, then they'll always be there for you, and they'll always help push your music. And you can't rely on them to push your music harder than you're going to push your music. So as much as you give them, they're going to give back. And I think I'll save the rest for later.
I know it can be challenging still, with a lot of competition. And they have a demographic, they're calling in for certain songs, and maybe they're not calling for your song, so it can be very tough. And I'm always stressing this all the time to artists I manage and artists I have in my artist development workshop. Those social networks, I just cannot stress it enough. I know it's tedious, and I know it's frustrating, but I don't care if you have 7,000 likes and only 2 people are talking about you. It means that there's no interaction going on that page. You're not putting up enough content, and people keep overlooking that all the time. That's your fan base, and I think
were there a bunch of different people who came to try to manage you before you found your current manager, and what are the types of things that your manager does on your behalf?
Okay, firstly, one of the most important things you know in the music business is that you need a team. 100%, you cannot do it on your own. There's no way, it's not possible. You need a team of people who believe in you and who support you and who care about you 100%. I was lucky enough to have had Carrie from the time I was 15. I met her at church, and she got me into songwriting, and she's like my music mama, I like to call her. And I was lucky enough to have her. But a lot of people, you don't have managers, or just you don't know anyone. One thing I would say is that just be smart and think. Don't want it so bad that you forget who you are. Go back to that same point which I made earlier. Know who you are and know what you stand for. And if someone's making you an offer, just be smart and think. Are they offering really what I want to do, or I'm just taking it because I think it's the only thing there is there. You always have a choice. You always have an option. And when you find that somebody that you feel comfortable with and that you trust, you need to stick with them, because after that, there's still going to be people coming at you all the time. They're going to be saying, well, I could do this better than that person, or I could offer you this. And you have to kind of be smart about it and say, you know what, sure, maybe you could do that a lot quicker, but I think I want to stick with my team, because loyalty is an extremely important thing in the music business. And if you lose that loyalty, it spreads like wildfire, and everyone will know that you've lost that loyalty, and no one will be able to trust you the same way. So you have to remember to find your team and to stick with your team.
In fact, it's apart from joining COSCAT, which I would recommend everybody to do, because they have, apart from collecting any money that you might have owing to you, they also have a number of support services. We talked about managers. My advice has always been, don't sign anything until you have shown it to somebody who at least has some knowledge of the music business and can read it and tell you whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
About the longevity of your career, think about your team and who's going to be there for you in 20 years, in 30 years. It's those people who you started out with, and that would be Carrie and my boys, in my case. And you just have to make that decision and know that people have a lot of promises. It doesn't mean that they're real. Carry yourself and manners and being respectful to people. That's extremely important in this business, because you could be the biggest star in the world one day, and one day you just have a day and you just say, oh, I don't feel like being polite to this person, I'm going to be mean to this person. And then next week, you just, you know, your song doesn't do well, and you have to go to that same person and ask them for help. You need to respect everyone you meet, because that respect and that karma will come back to you. It definitely will. So that's a very important point.
The same people you step on the way up, you're gonna pass them on the way back. Okay, Ivan.
This is for all the mothers fighting.
As far as co-writing is concerned, it can sound rather daunting if you've never written a song. But you may have written some words, and believe it or not, from a number of very established and very successful songwriters, from Elton John down, they co-write with somebody, and they can only write the melody when they have the lyrics in front of them. And in fact, Elton John told me personally that it is much harder to find a great lyricist than it is to find somebody who is a great melody writer. There are a lot of people who can write melodies, but there are very few people who can write meaningful lyrics. And when Elton John had his most successful period, the lyrics came by fax from Los Angeles, from Bernie Taupin, and then Elton wrote the songs. So although you may not feel like a natural melody writer, if you can write, you may end up being a very successful lyric writer, and then all you've got to do is find somebody who can put melodies to your lyrics, and that makes you a co-writer, and you're just as important financially in every other way as if you were the melody writer. Everybody thinks the melody writer is a genius and the lyric writer is not so clever. Well, think of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, and you know, there are some fantastic lyricists, and without those lyrics, those melodies, no matter how good those melodies were, they wouldn't have become as successful as they were without great lyrics. And there, you can count on the fingers of one hand the people who can write lyrics and melodies: Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, and if you look at the others, you look at Adele. Everybody's heard of Adele. Everybody's got the record. Just take the sleeve out and read the credits on who wrote the songs. Adele did not write any of those songs on her own. She wrote them with either the producer or a co-writer, and in several cases with two other writers. So she had a third of the song, so she contributed maybe some of the lyrics, maybe some of the melody, but there's no harm in you need to find somebody to write with. If you're a melody writer, but you have struggles with the lyrics, then you've got to find somebody whose lyrics give you inspiration, in the way that I hope that Nikita's found some inspiration, and now she's writing her own songs, which is really the direction that she needed to go in.
I let it fall, my heart, and does it feel you?
It's great if you can find a mentor, somebody either from COSCAP or somebody who can give you advice. As they say, one great artist has one great manager. That's very true, and very often the manager learns with the artist. I represented an act called Led Zeppelin, who were moderately successful. They had a manager called Peter Grant. He was the roadie. He was the guy who carried the speakers and put them on the stage. And eventually he was very close to the band, and they asked him to look after them. He became their manager, and he became the manager of probably one of the most successful acts that's ever played, rock acts. He learned as he went along. He brought people in who knew what they were doing. One of them was me. And helped Led Zeppelin in the ways. Peter was great at controlling the act and developing the act, but he wasn't too keen on the paperwork side of things. And so he brought people in who looked after those side of things.
I'll ask, I said that, if you're going to put something out there, make sure it's the best.
I have people send me things that aren't mastered, that aren't mixed properly. You really have to listen to the radio. What we look for is, can we play this next to Katy Perry, Beyonce, your R&B? Can we play this next to Mary J. Blige? You know, that is what we look for.
It's better to get it right and develop than it is to get it quick. Because if you get it quick, I think you're very liable to make the mistakes which Ebony very eloquently detailed that you can be in the wrong hands very quickly, and your career can be just like a pyramid. You can go up like a rocket, and then you're coming down the other side, and it's all over before you're 26. So I'd rather be 26 and developing rather than 26 and it will be over. So
Online is your world stage now. It's the world stage. When you put a cover or a song up there, the whole world can see it. And that's your audience as well. You need to read those comments. You need to see, are people responding? I posted this cover and yeah, it has 300 likes, but did anyone even comment on it? You know, it's 300 views, but did anyone comment on it? I mean, are they interested? You need to look at that and read that feedback as well, because the world is now seeing you and you're seeing your stuff once you put it online. And you have to make sure that the standard is high. You have to make sure that, you say, well, you know, I could have signed the line better, but the whole thing is, it's good. Generally speaking, right, it's good. If it's not the best that represents you, don't put it out there, you know?
But if you study your audience while you're performing, you will see what works for your audience and what doesn't. And you'll begin to feel maybe more comfortable with a certain genre, certain songs. You'll see the audience responding to those, whereas perhaps other songs they won't be responding to. And you'll, if you watch your audience, you'll get a lot of feedback, and that's good feedback. That's genuine market research, if you like. And
at the end of the day, it comes down to raw talent. You know, it really does. And you know, this is very competitive, and the reality is not all of you are going to make it. I'm just saying. You know, and I'm not trying to crush anybody's dreams here, but it's very competitive. And I look for raw, like honestly, raw talent. I think the live performance is very, very important, because you know, you can go in the studio and do it all up and stuff, but then you know, you hit the stage and you're like running out of breath. It's like, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. But I think really, and I think we've all touched on this, it's work ethic. It really is. And you have to, you know, really be willing to put in thousands and thousands of thousands of hours into this. And the reality is too, at the same time, you know what? I'll be honest, sometimes, you know, I'm not even sometimes, like, every now and then you'll just see somebody walk in the room and you may not even know what they do. And this is just for me, and I'm like, that person's a star. Like, you could just see, it's like this aura about them, you know what I mean? Like, so the part of that is some of the stuff that I look at. But again, I think it really does come down to raw talent, really, and you know, and what makes that person stand out from everybody else. And if I could give an advice, any advice to some of you artists, stay in the lane that you want to be in. You know what I mean? Don't try to. Well, you know, this, the 4 on the floor sound is in, so like let's do a dance record. Like, come on.
Hi everyone, Mia Sheehan here. Tonight's panel was amazing. They really spoke in terms that anybody could understand, which is great because I'm new here, just learning everything. And it's exciting, the whole experience is exciting and informative. So yeah, thank you panelists.
I also need to co-sign what Ivan was saying about this is hard work. One thing I tell all artists, don't do this unless you cannot not do it. Right?